and welcome to the Tassie Stitches. I'm Melissa. Unfortunately, we're missing Carolyn, and that will be the case for quite a while. It's really hard for us to actually get together with our whips to do a floss tube. But hopefully she'll be able to pop up throughout the year and we can do a couple of floss tubes together. You may notice little Rosie sitting back here in the corner. She's not 100% well today, so if you see a little head pop up and down, that's just Rosie. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the new challenges in Down Under Divas. I'm going to be talking to you about my plans for next year, and then also showing you my whips that I'll be using in January and new starts, and show you how they fit in with my plans for the year. But to start off with, we'll talk about Down Under Divas. So you're not in Down Under Divas and you're not interested, please just skip to the next part. If you're not in Down Under Divas and you would like to join Down Under Divas, I will leave the information in the description box below for you. So this year in Down Under Divas, we have our usual fortnightly challenges, and we've got one that actually will be starting on the 1st of January, so that worked out really well. We have got our monthly challenges where you can stitch to your level. So all of ours are stitched to your level. So fortnightly challenges, you can stitch 100, 200 or 300 per prompt. In our monthly, you can aim to achieve 3,000 stitches for the month, 6,000 stitches for the month, 9,000 stitches for the month, or 10,000 stitches for the month. Please just work within your stitching ability. If you want to stretch yourself, that's perfectly fine, but don't feel completely overwhelmed and don't feel like you have to stitch all 10,000 stitches if that's just not your style. Unfortunately, it is my style, so you will see me trying to achieve those 10,000 stitches every month. Remembering that in Down Under Divas, you cannot double dip for any of our challenges, except for the one new one this year. So this year our new challenge is an annual challenge. Essentially it's like a background certificate type challenge that you may have seen in other groups, and we will be stitching the planets. Our whole theme this year for our monthly is Quest Through Space, I think that's what we call it. So we will be stitching the planets. So you can stitch the planets or the sun if you're very game. You can stitch on one planet at a time. You can stitch them in any order. You can stitch on more than one planet at a time. It's completely up to you how you choose to do these stitches. Just make it really clear, like Mercury and then all the stitches for Mercury underneath that, and then Earth and all the stitches for Earth underneath that. When you finished a planet, please let me know, either by tagging me or sending me a DM. Sometimes tags get lost in my Facebook notifications. And we will then put a little certificate up for you for achieving that planet. That is not a requirement. Again, this is an optional extra, but I know quite a few people like to have those year-long challenges where they can keep track of all of their stitches on their work throughout the year. Secondly, we have another new option this year for penalty stitches in the monthly challenges. So as you should already know, there is one free pass for the monthly challenges. So if there's a prompt or several prompts there that you can't meet, you can pick one to have a complete free pass for that month. Every month has one free pass for every person. Those free passes cannot be accumulated for future use. So if you don't use the one for January, then that's gone. You can't reuse that one and have two in February. However, this year, there's two ways you can earn or you can earn. The one way you can earn free passes, and we also have a penalty option now for the monthlies. So for the penalty option, which is new, you need to go to the monthly penalty nomination event, penalty project nomination event, and there you can nominate a project to be used for each month as a penalty project, which means if you can't meet the stitches for one particular prompt, you can use that project. Now you can nominate a project for 1 month, you can nominate it for 2 months, you can nominate a different project for every month or alternate between two. You can do whatever you like. I will probably be doing one for the whole year. I have a project I'm trying to finish next year. But you just need to make sure that you nominate your project for that particular month by the 3rd. If you don't nominate a project by the 3rd, then you won't be able to use that project for your penalty stitches in the monthly challenges. If you would like to earn free passes, which gives you the ability to have, multiple projects that don't meet prompts going in 1 month, then we still have our Finishes for Freedom event. So in our Finishes for Freedom event, you need to stitch 300 stitches on finishes. They must be finished within the event to earn a free pass. In order for stitches to be valid and counted towards the 300, like I said, they must be stitched on in the event, and it must be a minimum of the average. So if your project is 200 by 200, then the average is 200. So you must have at least 200 stitches on that finish in that event that will count towards your 300. If your project is 100 by 50, then your average would be 75. If you stitch more, that's perfectly fine. If you stitch less, that project is not eligible for the finish event and you won't be able to earn any stitches towards your 300 for a free pass. Free passes can be worked on over many months. You can have multiple free passes being worked on at the same time. You might have one big project you're trying to finish, so that is a free pass on its own that you're working on, and you may have multiple small ones that you want to lump together as a free pass. As long as it's really clear to me what you're doing, that's completely fine. Remembering double dipping is not allowed, and code words are necessary across all of our challenges except the planets challenge. Code words have become necessary because I do tend to post a lot of things in advance. You'll notice that all of the monthly challenges for the year are up. And we did have a period of time where people were stitching well in advance. So code words are there just to keep it fair and to make sure you're working on the challenges in the time period they were actually meant to be worked on. So code words across all challenges in Down Under Divas except for Stitch the Planets. I hope that makes a bit more sense. If you've got any other questions, please reach out. I'm always happy to answer them for you. So, on to my 2024 plans. So in 2024, I will be stitching each month I will have 3 focus type projects. One of those projects will change every 3 months, but the other 2 will pretty much stay the same. So my first focus type project, which will get at least 500 stitches each month, is the Spooky Library, which is a temperature challenge. So this is what it will look like up here. I haven't decided on fabric yet. I'm thinking something like galvanized bucket. I don't want to go too dark, but I would like to go dark and it'll probably be on 40 count. But this is a temperature challenge, so each one of the little bottles in there denotes one day of the year. And because I'm in the Southern Hemisphere, I'm going to have to do a little bit of fiddling with motifs, but that should be a bit of fun. And I don't expect to finish this in the year. I've never finished a temperature challenge in a year, but at least I'll make some significant progress on that throughout the year. So that's Stitching Library, and you'll see, or Spooky Library, and you will see that every month. Next up, I'm stitching the seasons in the Full Coverage Fanatics group. I have 2 pieces, so the piece I'll be starting with is some montage. This will be a new start. It will be 1/1 full cross on 25 count. I'm really looking forward to this. I really like, we've just got bees in our family, and I did want to stitch the 4, but I had a really good look at them a couple of weeks ago. And to be honest, this one was the only one that really made sense for me in the Southern Hemisphere. So this is the one that we're going with. So this will come, you will see this in January, February and March, and then in July, August and September. And this, it should get around 500 to 1,000 stitches a month, just depending on how I can fit it in with my other stitching challenges. This will also be my new year, new start. So I'll be starting this on 1st of January. My other focus project for the year is Visit the Mines of Moria. Now this is a project that I am doing as a present for my cousin for his 50th birthday, which is the 29th of December next year. So I've got 12 months to finish it. I have made a little bit of progress, and this is where I am up to. And at the moment it looks like I'll be putting about 1,500 stitches into this each month. That may go up or down depending on whether I have a really good or a really bad month, but at the moment it will be around 1,500 to 1,600 stitches a month to get this finished by December. He had to pick the only one from Country Magic Stitch that had backstitch, but that's what we're doing. Okay. So they are my 3 projects that you will see coming out every month for big stitch counts. I also have 3 family projects that I work on every month. These will be around 100 stitches a month unless they fit a challenge. And if one of these gets finished throughout the year, then I will substitute in another project for that. But to start off with, we have my husband's, which is the marble ring. So I'm so glad this is almost over. This was almost one of the first projects I started when I came back to cross-stitching in 2018, 2019. So this is, I've done all of the cross-stitching in this project, and we are just up to getting all of the back stitching through. Back stitching is not my favourite thing to do. So I did save it all to the end, which was probably stupid. But the way I work projects, I don't often finish a section before I move on to the next section. I do tend to jump around all over the place. So cross-stitching as I go, especially when all the motifs touch, like in this particular project, it is really hard for me to get them all, to get the back stitching done as I go. So now it's just the hard slog of the back stitching. The third family piece that I'm working is for my mum. This is Reflections of Paris by Ink Circles. I'm actually doing this all in beads, and to be honest, some months I only manage 50 just because it's really full on, but this will be eventually turned into a cushion, and this is where we're up to. I think if I was cross-stitching this, it will go a lot faster, and I'd probably like it a lot more than I actually do. But just chipping away at it a little bit every month makes it doable. So that's Reflections of Paris. Then we will move into my plans for January. So, oh, sorry, I forgot to show you my son's. So I also do one for my son every month. And at the moment it's Kangaroo Circle. So this is a new project for him in January. I finished his current project that I was working on for him this month. So this is his next one. And as you can see, I've already made quite a lot of progress on this. So this one should swap at some point in the year. But this is Kangaroo. He has picked 10 of these circle type projects. I finished one. I've got another 2 on the go, which includes this. And I may or may not start another one later in the year. It just depends. But at the moment, we've got 2 on the go, and this is the one that will come out every month for at least 100 stitches. So then onto my proper monthly goals and things I'm doing for January. So I do Whip Go. My Whip Go tends to be my 24 oldest projects. And depending on the kind of project, so if it's a family project, its goal is 12 days throughout the year or a finish. If it's just a normal project, normal cross stitch project, the goal is 3,000 stitches on that for the year. And I really try very hard to get that. And then my goal for needlepoint projects, because I have a couple of them going and they're both on my Whip Go board for this coming year, is 6 days per project. And then I have one other project which you won't see today, which is the patchwork sampler. That's just kind of where I use up any extra floss that I have left over, or if I'm trying to meet a colour challenge and I don't have that particular colour in any of the projects I'm working on that month, that is generally the project that gets picked up and worked on. So that also only has a 6 day in the year goal. So my 2 Whip Goes that got drawn this month were Pandemic and Orient. And these both actually ended up being able to fit into my Down Under Divas challenges for the month. So Down Under Divas tends to drive my 11 main projects for the month, other than the ones that I've just already shown you. So Orient is the first one. Oh, I did unzip all of these, so I do apologise. So Orient is the first one. This is one I've been working on for quite a while, and I'm getting there. So this is where we're currently at. This is stitched 1/1 on 22 count on a piece of fabric that I have dyed myself. It has a devil's pubic hair border, which I have already completed, which is like a DMC metallic light effects, and then lovely Krynic red shiny buttons. I think most of those are finished. I might have a little bit to go over there, but I've done most of the sparkly thread. So now it's just filling in this bottom part. That's been on the go for a while. It's not really a focus. It's from a really old Jill Oxton's beading magazine. So if anybody would like some more information on that, please let me know and I'll put that up for you. The other Whip Go piece is Pandemic. And again, like I said, my Whip Go goals for these are 3,000 stitches. It's not 3,000 stitches in the month it's drawn. That is an annual goal. So for Orient, that will actually should receive in January at least 2,000 stitches for the Down Under Divas prompt to do with life. Next is Long Dog Samplers Pandemic. I forgot to show you the cover photo for Orient. So this is the cover photo for Orient. And then most of you should be familiar with Long Dog's Pandemic. I'm stitching this in random colours. So I used to be, or was one of the founding members for the Sassy Devils. And so I have collected all of the exclusive Silks for You colours, and that is what I'm stitching this in. So this is where I'm up to. This is almost 2 full skeins of the exclusive Silks for You colours, way back when we first started. So there's like a paler colour and then the brighter colour. So I should be getting very close to starting the 3rd skein. Not 100% sure what that is, but we'll find that out together. And that will get 1,000 stitches in January at least. And that's because there are stars in that pattern. So I do apologise for the noise, but if I don't put them away as I'm going, it will be an absolute mess. So that's my 2 whip goes. So then we just move on to what meets prompts. So when I'm picking these, I've got just over 50 projects that I work on. And although my whip go goal is 3,000 stitches in every project, that's pretty much my goal across the board for all of my projects. However, it's something I push on my whip goes. If I don't quite make it on my other projects, I don't worry. And a lot of my projects do tend to go over the 3,000 stitches. So it's just kind of a goal, but if it's a whip go, it's something I really push to meet. Next up is Little Cake Shop, which is a Hade. This was my second project that I ever started when I came back to cross stitch. I'm not going to pull it out of the Q-snap, but this is our starting point. So I'm still up in the ceiling, about halfway across. And this is stitched 1/1 full cross on 25 count. Most of my full coverage projects are stitched 1/1 on 25 count. I think the other ones I have showed you, the Kangaroo and the Orient and Mines of Moria, are all 1/1 on 22 count. It's one of my other favourite counts. So that's Cake Shop. That meets the prompt 4 to 5 years old, because I've really only been back to cross stitching for 4 or 5 years. The next one is to stitch in yellow because of the sun. I think in January the Down Under Divas prompts are to do with the sun. This is one of my least favourite projects, but I'm stubborn, so I will finish it. And so this will receive 1,000 yellow stitches in January. This is on a Crafty Leanie Fabric of the Month from a few years ago. I think it was called Margarita. It's a 32 count Belfast, and this is 2/2 2/2 on 32 count Belfast. It's a really bright fabric, so I'll be working on another yellow flower on that one. And again, this is one of my oldest, so it is on my whip go board and will come up again eventually. That's one that really only tends to get pulled out for challenges. So we've talked about Pandemic. The next one is 13th Colony Bay, and this is being stitched on because it has a very large sun, which I know quite a few people opted not to stitch, but I didn't mind it, so I've stitched it. I started stitching this one in the middle. This is 3 patterns that make up this project, and I started on the middle pattern and have just recently moved over to the next pattern on the side. So this is where we're up to on this one. This is being stitched in the DMC, and it's on a piece of not Zweigart linen, Perman linen, I think, in the colour French Rain. So it's probably not a Belfast, but it is a 32 count. Next up is another circle for my son. So this is a dinosaur circle. There are 4 of these, but I've only started 1. Again, this is a little full coverage, and it's on 22 count. I should show you the picture, shouldn't I? So you know what it's going to look like. So 22 count, and I don't think I've mentioned, and that's upside down, that these are from Etsy, from the shop Oh My Stitches. So this is where I'm up to, and this one will receive 500 stitches, and that meets the prompt gets hot because it's got a volcano in the back. I figure volcanoes get pretty hot. Next up for the challenges is Spring at Tulip Cottage. So this was a Gecko Rouge spring mystery project. This is the first kit that I've actually stitched on since coming back to cross stitch. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about kits. I'm still trying to work out what to do with all the floss in the kit, but I'll work that out eventually. This has had a really small start. This is on 28 count easy guide, I think they call it. I don't normally stitch on gridded fabric or grid my own fabric, so this is a bit unusual for me. But this is 28 count 1/1 full cross, and I'm just up in that top corner. And that will get another 500 stitches. This is also the other project that will be pulled out for the Full Coverage Fanatics seasonal stitching. So this will also get pulled at least 6 months through the year. So that's that one. And that meets the prompt very large because of the very large white house. Moving on, we have Witching Hour. So Witching Hour, I'm doing the ornament size. It's a Hade with artwork by Lisa Parker. I just love this piece. This was my focus piece, one of my focus pieces last year, so it did get quite a lot of love. So we're almost halfway. And this is being stitched on 25 count charcoal from Zweigart. Zweigart 1/1 full cross. And this makes the prompt not solid because flames are not solid. And that's my only project on one of these plastic Nerge frames. I'm not sure I'm a fan of them, but we gave it a go anyway. Next up is Peacock, a Unicorn and a Badger. So a lot of you would have seen this around. I'm stitching this on a 40 count flax in the DMC conversion. And this has been used for many challenges. As you can see, it's kind of jumped around all over the place. So the border is fully done. And then there's a few other colour challenges that have been met down the bottom. But most of the stitching has been done up in this top corner. And I just love this piece. I love working on this piece. I love the fact that you can use your brain and draw some outlines, or just be boring and do some fill-in stitches, or just do some background stitches. So actually, despite the fact that it doesn't look like I've done too much on that, it is actually probably one of my favourite projects. That will be getting 500 stitches because the peacock has spots and you need to stitch on something with spots. Next up is And a Forest Grew. So this is a Rosewood Manor piece, I think. That's another big one. I stitch a lot of big things. I don't mean to stitch a lot of big things, but I do. This is on a piece of fabric that I have dyed myself. It's a really pale green colour, but it's probably not going to show up on the camera very well. This is another one I tend to jump around on quite a bit to meet specific colour prompts. And it will also get 500 stitches this month, because the saying in the middle is religious and we have to stitch on something related to God. So that's as close to God as I got. Finally, the final project I'll be working on, there are others that I'll be working on in January that have birthdays, but birthday projects for me only get about 100 stitches. So if I come back to you mid-month, I may be able to show you some of those. So this is Modern Folk Embroidery sale from last year. I think it was called Reaching Skyward. There are two versions that you can see up there. I'm stitching a mishmash of the two versions, and last year this was one of my focus pieces, and I only stitched on the month piece that I was working in. So you will see for January I stitched quite a way across the top, And then I have just focused on the side because in December I stitched on the December section and so etc. etc. So you can kind of see I've been working down that side but not really completing any particular section. I think as I continue to work on this, I may actually stay in the month, so in the monthly sections until they're finished, obviously. So for January, I'll just start back up at the top again. This won't get pulled out every month this year. It should only get probably around its 3,000 stitches, but this month it's going to get 500, and that's because it's got a big central motif in the middle. I didn't buy the motif add-on, so it will just be the standard central motif, which I believe is the one on the far left, I think. So that's it. That's everything that I'll be working on. I hope you have a really good New Year's. Hopefully this will go up today. And I'll try and see you next month. Goodbye.